Why do you keep getting in your own way? You have goals, and you know what you should be doing, but some unseen force just holds you back. It's that pattern of self-sabotage that feels like fate, the promotion you talked yourself out of, the relationship you pushed away, the creative project gathering dust. You feel like you're running at a fraction of your real potential, constantly yanked back by invisible strings. What if I told you this force isn't fate? It has a name. The psychoanalyst Carl Jung, he called it, the shadow. And it's all the parts of yourself you've repressed, denied, or disowned. Until you turn around and finally face it, well, it will continue to run your life from the darkness. The idea of the shadow self is one of the most powerful concepts in psychology. Jung proposed that from a young age, society teaches us to wear a mask. He called it a persona. It's the version of ourselves that's acceptable to the world. To keep this mask in place, we take any trait seen as negative or, well, inconvenient, like our anger, envy, fear, and these so-called weaknesses, and we just shove them into our unconscious. But they don't just disappear, you see. They gather in the dark and form the shadow. This shadow isn't an evil twin. It's just the parts of us we've refused to look at. Ironically, the more we ignore it, the more power it has. It shows up as mood swings, irrational fears, impulsive decisions, and most of all, as projection. That's when we start seeing our own disowned traits in other people, judging them for the very things we deny in ourselves. Think about it. What irritates you most in others is often a flashing sign pointing to an unexamined part of your own shadow. But the shadow doesn't just hold our flaws. It's also a reservoir of incredible, untapped potential. It's where our repressed creativity, raw power, and deepest authenticity are stored. By refusing to look at it, we're not just hiding our darkness, we're cutting ourselves off from our own light and energy. This is why you feel stuck. So we're going to explore 7 powerful shadow work techniques that build a bridge to your unconscious self. Now, this isn't just about feeling better, no. It's about becoming a more integrated and intelligent person. We'll look at how these practices really boost your emotional intelligence, things like self-awareness, emotional regulation, and empathy. And also enhance your cognitive skills, like problem solving, critical thinking, and creativity. Essentially, doing shadow work is the process of making the darkness conscious, so it no longer runs your life. It's the key to unlocking new levels of awareness and building a more whole, authentic, and powerful version of yourself. The most accessible tool for this journey is shadow work journaling. This isn't a Dear Diary list of your day. No, it's psychological archaeology. You're taking a pen and intentionally digging into the hidden layers of your mind to bring unconscious material into the light. Most of our limiting beliefs and emotional triggers, they run on autopilot. As Jung once said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Journaling is, truly, the most direct way to start making it conscious. It's about putting language to feelings that are otherwise a chaotic mess inside you. To start, though, you need a space of total psychological safety. This journal is for your eyes only, so you can be brutally honest without fear of judgment. Get curious, not judgmental. The keys to this are shadow work prompts. Those targeted questions designed to bypass your ego. Here are a few to get you started. First, ask yourself this: what traits in other people annoy or anger me the most? This is your front row seat, really, to understanding projection. You see, a massive emotional reaction to someone's arrogance or laziness. It's often because you're seeing a disowned part of yourself. Maybe their arrogance triggers you, for example, because you've suppressed your own ambition to seem humble. Write about where you learned this trait was, well, bad. This helps you reclaim that energy, which is a huge step in emotional intelligence. Secondly, what emotions do I try to avoid at all costs? Many of us learn that feelings like anger or sadness are, well, they're off limits, but suppressing them doesn't make them vanish. That energy simply gets pushed into the shadow and can bubble up as anxiety or depression. By journaling about an emotion you avoid, you can explore it safely. Ask yourself, what is this anger trying to protect? This teaches you to understand the message behind the emotion, which is the heart of emotional regulation. And third, if I could write a letter to the person who hurt me the most, with zero consequences, what would I say? This exercise isn't about forgiveness. It's about letting yourself express the full, uncensored spectrum of your pain and rage. Giving that pain a voice on paper can be an incredible release, freeing up mental and emotional energy. Using these prompts regularly helps you connect the dots between past events and present behavior. This really develops your cognitive skills by improving metacognition. That's the ability to think about your own thinking. At the same time, it builds emotional intelligence by making your triggers clear, boosting self-awareness, and helping you take responsibility for your emotional states. If journaling is how you dig into the shadow, mindfulness and meditation give you the stability to handle what you find. Shadow work can bring up overwhelming emotions, and mindfulness creates a safe container to observe your inner world without getting swept away. Mindfulness is simply the practice of paying attention to the present moment, your thoughts, feelings, and body, without judging them. It's about watching the contents of your mind, like clouds passing in the sky. You notice them, but you don't have to grab onto them. This practice, it's revolutionary for shadow work because it creates a tiny but powerful space between a trigger and your reaction. A tough memory pops up. Normally, you might immediately react with shame or distraction, but with mindfulness, you learn to just notice the memory and the feeling. You don't have to obey the urge to run away. In that gap between stimulus and response, you find your freedom. The science on this is fascinating. Mindfulness helps regulate the brain's limbic system, our inner alarm system. By repeatedly observing emotions without reacting, you're literally rewiring your brain to be less reactive. Here's a simple exercise. Sit comfortably, close your eyes, and bring your attention to your breath. Your mind will wander. That's not a failure. The moment you realize it has wandered is a moment of mindfulness. Gently, without judgment, label it, thinking, and guide your attention back to your breath. That's the whole practice. When a shadow emotion like jealousy shows up, instead of acting on it or repressing it, you can get mindfully curious. Ask yourself, where do I feel this in my body? What thoughts are attached to it? You're not indulging it or repressing it, you're investigating it with compassion. This practice directly boosts emotional intelligence by radically improving emotional regulation and self-awareness. You learn to manage difficult feelings instead of being managed by them. It also sharpens your cognitive skills by improving focus and concentration. By creating that mental space, you allow more creative and insightful solutions to bubble up for both your inner and outer problems. Many of the most deeply buried parts of our shadow come from our early years. The inner child is the part of your psyche, holding the memories and emotions of your childhood. When our needs for safety and love weren't met, or when we experienced trauma, those wounds got stuck. They create powerful shadow elements that are still running the show in our adult lives. Inner child work is the process of reconnecting with and taking care of this wounded part of yourself. It's a form of reparenting, where your adult self provides the comfort and safety your younger self never got. This isn't about blaming anyone. It's about healing emotional wounds that are still active today. These wounds often manifest as huge emotional overreactions, self-sabotage, and nagging insecurities. For example, an adult who is codependent in relationships may have an inner child who learned they had to be a perfect helper to earn love. So, how do you connect with this part of yourself? Visualization is a powerful tool. Find a quiet spot, close your eyes, and imagine yourself as a child at a vulnerable age. Approach this child gently. Ask them what they need. Your job isn't to fix them, but just to be there and offer acceptance. You could say, "I see you. I hear you. You're safe now." Another technique is letter writing. You can write a letter to your inner child, offering the support you wish you'd heard back then. Or, write a letter from your inner child. A great trick for this is to use your non-dominant hand, which helps bypass your analytical adult brain and lets a more raw voice come out. This work is profound because it goes to the root of many shadow issues. Healing the original wound often dissolves the present-day problem. This dramatically enhances emotional intelligence by boosting self-compassion and resilience. When you learn to soothe your own inner turmoil, you become less needy for outside validation. This process also unlocks cognitive resources. When you're no longer using subconscious energy to keep old wounds buried, that energy is freed up for creativity and problem solving. Healing your inner child helps dissolve limiting beliefs formed when you were a kid, like, "I'm not smart enough," opening up a whole new world of possibilities. This journey into the self is a deep one. If you're finding this valuable and you're ready to keep exploring your own potential, go ahead and subscribe and click the notification bell. We get into topics just like this every single week, and I'd honestly love to hear from you. So drop a comment below. Which of these techniques resonates with you the most? Or which one are you most curious to try? Your insights are a huge part of this journey for everyone. When we're awake, our conscious mind is in charge. But when we sleep, the unconscious starts to talk. Carl Jung believed dreams are direct and unfiltered messages from our deeper self, especially the shadow. They're like letters from the unconscious, written in a symbolic language. The shadow often appears in dreams in disguise, a scary figure chasing you, a wild animal, or, a person you dislike. These symbols aren't random, not at all. They're tailor-made for your psychology. The goal isn't to use a generic dream dictionary, but, to have a personal conversation with the dream's images, to figure out what they mean, specifically for you. First, get in the habit of recording your dreams. Keep a journal by your bed and write down everything you remember the second you wake up. The plot, symbols, characters, and especially the emotions you felt. The feeling of a dream is often its most critical message. Once you have the dream written down, you can work with it. Let's say you dream you're in your childhood home, but it's dark, and you hear a growling sound from the basement. Here's how to analyze it. First, identify the symbols: childhood home, darkness, basement, growl. Second, make personal associations. What does my childhood home mean to me? Safety or conflict? What's a basement, a foundation, a subconscious place? And what do I associate with a growl, anger, or primal energy? Third, connect it to your waking life. Jung believed dreams often balance a one-sided conscious attitude. Perhaps your conscious self is afraid of a powerful primal energy inside you, like your ambition or passion. The neglected house, for instance, could suggest that by ignoring this part of your foundation, your whole psychological house is suffering. The dream is an invitation. Hey, there's powerful energy down here. You need to go down and face it. By working with your dreams this way, you open a direct line of communication with your shadow. This practice is a fantastic workout for your cognitive skills. It's a high-level exercise in symbolic thinking, pattern recognition, and creative problem-solving. You learn the unique language of your own mind. At the same time, it's a masterclass in emotional intelligence. Dreams reveal our hidden emotional landscape, the fears we won't admit to, and the desires we're repressing. By consciously engaging with this material, we can process these emotions, leading to greater emotional balance and a deeper understanding of what really drives us. While these techniques are powerful, some parts of the shadow are too dense or too rooted in trauma to navigate safely on your own. Diving into this work can be intense, and this is where help from a trained professional like a therapist can really be a game changer. Think of it like exploring a deep, complex cave system. You need an experienced guide who knows the territory. A therapist trained in depth psychology, like Jungian or psychodynamic therapy, they're that guide. These therapies are specifically designed to explore the unconscious. A therapist provides a safe, confidential space where you can face challenging parts of your shadow without getting overwhelmed. They're trained to see what you can't see in yourself. Because of our blind spots, we often can't recognize our own deepest patterns. A therapist acts like a mirror, reflecting your shadow back to you in a compassionate, manageable way. For instance, they can help you spot your projections in real time. And if your shadow contains serious trauma, working with a therapist is the responsible path forward. Trauma isn't just a bad memory. It gets locked in the body and nervous system. Trying to unpack that alone, you'll just relive the pain without truly processing it. A trauma-informed therapist helps you process these experiences safely. Engaging in this deep exploration, it dramatically accelerates the development of your emotional and cognitive abilities. Therapy itself is a powerful cognitive exercise. It improves your ability to articulate complex feelings and build a coherent story of who you are. The impact on emotional intelligence, by the way, is even more profound. Therapy is like a real-time lab for improving relationships. You learn to identify your needs, set boundaries, and develop empathy for yourself and others. Seeking therapy for shadow work isn't a sign of weakness. It's a sign of profound strength and a serious commitment to your own growth. It's an investment in yourself for one of the most rewarding journeys a person can take. While journaling is a set practice, emotional inquiry is a dynamic, in-the-moment art you can weave into your daily life. It's about becoming your own inner detective, training yourself to pause and investigate your emotional reactions as they happen. Our strongest triggers, they're like flares shooting up from the shadow. Say a casual comment makes you flush with shame, or a friend's success brings a pang of envy. These reactions, they feel so automatic and completely justified. We might think to ourselves, I'm angry because that guy is a jerk. Emotional inquiry challenges that. It asks you to take radical responsibility for your emotional state. When you feel a strong emotion, you pause, you take a breath, and then you ask yourself, why is this feeling so intense right now? What deeper part of me just got hit? This is exactly where you catch projection in the act. Imagine, for instance, you feel intensely annoyed by a people-pleasing coworker. Your conscious mind might say, I'm annoyed because they're weak and fake. But in emotional inquiry, it would go deeper. You'd pause and ask, why does their being agreeable bother me so much? You might discover this person represents a shadow part of you. Maybe you pride yourself on being direct, but deep down, a part of you is exhausted by conflict. Or perhaps you were a people pleaser in the past, and now you harshly reject that part of yourself. Suddenly, the colleague isn't the problem. They're actually activating an unresolved conflict inside you. And this, in turn, turns every moment of upset into a chance to grow. This practice is a powerful engine for building what we call emotional intelligence. It's truly the definition of self-awareness in action. It trains you to identify your triggers and choose your response, instead of being a slave to reactivity. It also builds empathy, because when you stop projecting your shadow onto others, you start to see them more clearly. And from a cognitive skills perspective, this constant self-inquiry really sharpens your analytical abilities. You're learning to see beneath the surface, to understand cause and effect in your own psychological system, truly enhancing your ability to think critically. Okay, so the final technique, it's one of the most dynamic, and that's using creative expression to integrate the shadow. You see, the shadow isn't just a basement of our flaws. No, it's actually the wellspring of our creativity and, well, our passion. Even Jung himself believed the shadow was the seed of creativity. It really holds this raw, untamed energy that our polite ego often likes to keep, under wraps. Now, when these energies, like rage or wildness, they have no healthy outlet, that's when they can become destructive, right? But when we actually give them a form through a creative act, we can explore, understand, and ultimately integrate their power constructively. So the goal isn't to get rid of these energies at all, but rather to harness them. This can take any form: painting, writing, music, dancing. The medium, well, it's less important than the intention, which is to give a voice to the voiceless parts of yourself. For example, someone who suppressed their anger could write a story from the perspective of a character filled with rage. In doing so, they can safely explore that emotion, what it feels like, what it wants, without being personally consumed by it. Or, a person wrestling with deep grief might paint abstract canvases, using color and texture to express feelings that words just can't touch. This works because it lets the shadow speak in its native language, which is often symbolic and nonverbal. It bypasses the censorship of the rational mind. You don't have to logically understand what you're creating at first. You just have to let it come out. The act of creating, that's the integration. Engaging in creative expression is a direct boost to your cognitive skills, especially creativity and innovation. By tapping into the raw material of the unconscious, you get access to new ideas and unconventional solutions. Its impact on emotional intelligence? Well, that's just as huge. Creative expression provides a safe outlet for intense emotions, which is a key part of emotional regulation. More than that, this process is fundamental to becoming authentic. Authenticity isn't about being good, it's about being whole. By giving expression to all parts of yourself, light and dark, you become a more integrated human being. The shadow, once feared, it actually becomes your muse. So we've walked through 7 powerful ways to explore the hidden landscape of your mind: journaling, mindfulness, inner child work, dream analysis, therapy, emotional inquiry, and creative expression. Each of these is a method for turning to face that shadow that follows you. This work isn't about self-criticism, no, it's the path to becoming a more fully realized and intelligent person. And the core idea is this: your intelligence isn't just about what you know about the world. It's a direct result of how deeply you know yourself. Bringing the shadow into the light boosts your cognitive abilities by dismantling limiting beliefs, freeing up mental energy for greater creativity, sharper problem solving, and clearer thinking. Simultaneously, it develops profound emotional intelligence, because by owning your repressed emotions, you learn to regulate them instead of being controlled by them. And this, in turn, dissolves projection. It allows you to build healthier, more authentic relationships. relationships based on empathy and self-responsibility. This journey is a lifelong practice that takes courage and self-compassion. Facing your shadow can feel uncomfortable, even scary at times, but the alternative is to live an inauthentic life, run by unconscious forces you don't understand, where you remain a fraction of who you could be. The goal of shadow work isn't to get rid of the shadow. That's impossible. It's to integrate it. It's to understand that the darkness isn't an enemy, but a source of profound power, wisdom, and vitality to be reclaimed. It's the alchemy of turning the lead of our repressed pain into the gold of our authentic self. By embracing your whole self, you stop fighting a civil war within your own mind and step into the full, unfragmented power of who you truly are. Share this video with someone you know who is ready to stop running at a fraction of their potential and start the journey toward becoming fully, intelligently, and authentically themselves.